And the last 2 points are actually the outcome which we achieved in 2008 versus 2009. It was actually quite interesting. In 2008, our turnover hit over 30%. Anyone here deals with a turnover of over 30%? My HR team seated somewhere over there. Some of them are here. They are dealing with 30% turnover. Employees just left us. Right? And that was in 2008. In 2009, we managed to reduce that to below 15%. Okay? And the question is, how and why? What did we do to allow us to, have a turnaround? Now you can partly, I'm sure those technical people among you will argue that 2009 was a crisis year for the whole world, right? So turnover was generally quite low. But I think, improving the turnover by about 15% in a crisis year is quite a good outcome. Right? And the insurance industry is quite notorious. We usually have turnover of about 18 to 20% in a normal year. Right? So 30% was not too much of a shock for us. But we have to deal with it. Right? And these are some ideas of what we did. We did a survey. Right? We engaged McKinsey. In 2008, we had engaged McKinsey to do the survey. In 2009, we did the survey again. And we did it twice. Okay? Be bold. Don't do one survey, you have to do twice. One is in the middle of the year somewhere to check that things are okay, and you do one at the end of the year again. Just to reconfirm your understanding. What it helped us to do was our performance improved in elements around strategic direction, leadership, accountability, and external orientation. Okay? So what does it mean for employees? It's very simple. The employees are telling us that we have provided better direction for them in a crisis year. We have provided stronger leadership for them in a crisis year. We have created more accountability. When we talk about pay for performance, we created the accountability on employees. And we got their attention shifted from internal focus to external focus. Right? To understand what's going on in the business world around them. Okay? And as a result of that, these were some of the comments that were made by the employees in the survey when we did this in 2009. AIA has made significant progress in all areas. I remain a loyal employee. Now, these are things that you want to hear as a HR person, when you are dealing with a crisis. Right? You don't want to hear things like, I want to run away from this organization. Right? So this sort of comments and feedback that we received in the survey reinforce to us that we've been doing the right things. And I'll talk about some of those things in a bit. But I think overall what we have managed to do is we've managed to change the thinking of our employees. That, okay, we are dealing with a bit of a crisis now. How do we rally around one another? Right? How do we work from 12 hours, we work 14 hours and still be happy doing it? Right? The interesting thing about working in the financial district is if you look at buildings and you roughly know which are the companies that are working extremely long. And if you take a map of your building and you map those departments on which floors, and then you check, you roughly know that finance department works very long. Anyone disagrees with that? Finance people are extremely long working, they love the organization. And then typically somewhere in second or third place is HR. Agree or disagree? Yeah. And even if you're not in the office, you're working at home, right? Or attending conferences to learn best practices from And quite interestingly, there are also other departments that maybe they are not so in the open, they are behind not transparent windows, but you get a general sense that people are working longer hours, and we are. Right? All of our employees are working longer hours. Because our organization has been restructured, we are a leaner organization, but the work has not gone away. Right? The business has not reduced. So we are doing more with less. And you can ask any one of our AIA employees if they disagree with this. Was that one of my... So the idea behind doing 2 surveys in the year was really to get people's thinking shifted to how do we get more employees to think and talk positively. Okay? And let me share with you some ideas which are not so compensation and benefits driven, but some ideas which you can take away and use in your organization. And these are things that have worked for us. We talk about providing solid leadership. You create an employee value proposition. This sounds like a very chim word, employee value proposition. It's a very simple word. What value does the employee place on you as an organization or on you as an employer? You ask most employees, they don't really care about the organization, right? I think we're all dealing with the fact that we have more transactional employees now. The new generation, or the generation Y, some of you qualify for generation Y, right? Others like me are past that generation. But I think if you ask the generation Y, they're not so interested to know about the future, about the willingness of this organization. What they're keen to know is, what transaction are we taking, what's taking place right now? How much are you compensating me for putting in 8 hours into the organization? Okay? So we need to create that. So make sure your leadership inspires. Now be bold. If your leaders are not inspiring, move them, remove them. Move them into another position. And if you're lucky, like us, your leaders leave you in a crisis. Right? And I shall not say more than that. Make sure there's not you got to get your employees to focus on the future. And what I mean by focusing on the future is really, you create all these wonderful products, all these wonderful services, employee programs. Make sure they are forward-looking. Right? Make sure that you've let go of practices which are irrelevant. Now let me ask you a simple question again. How many of you still have zoo passes or bird park passes as a benefit? Okay, some of you have some work here. We need to test what is the value of this benefit on employees. Okay? So maybe it's something that we can do. Because what I did, I realized that it was this benefit was being realized or was being used by only a certain group of employees. So which means that you are paying an organization for a benefit, the zoo and the bird parks, and we are administrating this very painful process around pass booking and things like that, right? Very painful, right? Passes go missing, employees complain, and so on and so forth. And you realize that the impact is only maybe on about 25% of the population, because the rest of us have gone to the zoo enough times. We've seen Aming enough. Well, Aming is not around, God bless his soul, but we've been to the zoo enough time. We've seen the animals, we've seen the creatures, we've seen the human beings, and everything looks the same. And nothing changes, right? If there is a new birth in the zoo, they will publish it in the newspaper. Maybe if you have kids, you will enjoy the benefit. Right? So we tracked that trend and we decided that, okay, we're going to do away with this benefit. It caused a riot. Even those people who did not use the pass felt that it's a benefit that should not be taken away. And mind you, we did this in a year when the company was going through a lot of crises. Essentially we were going through a challenge. And when we did that, employees were quite surprised. But later, when we increased the flexi benefits cash component, they were happy. Right? So you just do a trade-off. Right? So what it allowed us to do is focus on the future, and we'll talk about the future in a while. You accelerate our strategic plans. So we had a 3-year we had a 3-year plan. We made it into a 5-year plan, and then we said that we're going to accelerate all the targets. So our strategic plan targets grew tremendously. Right? And all employees were told that if you want to earn a bonus, focus on the strategic plans. If you're doing business as usual, you will get business as usual salary. Right? And there's nothing wrong in that, because there's some employees who just enjoy business as usual. Right? And they will enjoy 1 or 2% increase or 3% increase. Okay? But if you want to focus on pay for performance, then think about strategic plans. And the results, you get strong scores on direction, leadership, and accountability throughout the organization. Right? And then you put your leaders into this sort of situation, get them to wear polo t-shirt, do some dance on the stage. And that's where HR can get away with a lot of things. Right? You can get your leadership team on stage to do a dance and a song. And when they do it in a crisis, and they do it regularly in a crisis, fantastic. Right? The employees will love that.